Thrown out as a teenager because of baseless rumors perpetuated by my twin brother, I now find myself at 26, witnessing my parents, who once abandoned me, demand a share of my accomplishments. I grew up with a twin brother, and it was clear from the start that our parents treated us unequally. They seemed to believe my brother was destined for greatness, while I, always more keen on sports and socializing than academics, was labeled the black sheep. This constant comparison hurt my self-esteem early on. My childhood was marred by watching my brother enjoy lavish birthday celebrations and frequent sleepovers, while I was often sidelined. The only solace came from my grandmother, who showed me affection and small treats during her visit. As we grew, the favoritism I endured escalated into outright emotional abuse. My parents would ridicule my academic performance and trivialize my interests, making me feel perpetually inadequate. Despite my talents in sports, they restricted me from participating in any extracurricular activities, insisting I focus solely on my studies like my brother. The situation worsened in high school. When I was caught using Snapchat, a normal activity for teens, my parents exploded, treating it as a grave offense. They destroyed my belongings, removed my bedroom door, and declared I'd have no privacy under their roof. During this time, my brother exacerbated the toxic environment by lying about me, enabling him to escape blame for his own misdeeds by pinning them on me. He even mocked me at school and spread rumors that I was abusive at home, going as far as to injure himself to lend credibility to his claims. This manipulation tarnished my reputation, alienating me from friends and causing them to view me with suspicion. Despite these challenges, I remained sociable and made numerous friends, unlike my brother, who struggled socially. His envy peaked when none of his friends attended his 16th birthday, whereas mine took me out and made it special. This disparity fueled his vendetta, leading him to intensify his campaign of defamation against me. It felt like a sudden switch had been flipped. People began avoiding me, hesitant to be associated with the girl now labeled as violent and spoiled. One day, driven by a mix of confusion and hurt, I confronted my former best friend to understand why our relationship had changed. She hesitantly explained that my twin brother had been spreading harmful rumors about me, fabricating stories, and accusing me of actions I had never committed. The shock of her words hit me like a physical blow, a mix of disbelief and deep betrayal unsettling me deeply. Growing up with my twin, I never imagined he could craft such lies about me, portraying me as someone I could never even conceive of being. This betrayal left a heavy, sick feeling in my stomach. I confronted him the next day at school, but he coldly dismissed me, smirking and cruelly stating that I deserved to be alone. His reaction and the persistence of his lies began to scare me, and although I wanted to seek help from our parents, I feared they would take his side over mine. As my brother's jealousy-fueled lies spread, they began to dismantle the social connections I had carefully built over the years. Even teachers started to hear and believe the rumors, making me feel as though I was living in a twisted, parallel reality where my true self was overshadowed by the malicious narrative spun by my own twin. The rumors escalated to a point where they reached the ears of our school principal. Confronted with this nightmare scenario, I was summoned along with my brother and our parents to the principal's office for a discussion. Heart-pounding, I sat there as my brother doubled down on his false accusations in front of the principal, portraying me as a bully who attacked him when our parents were away. I sat in shock as he wove a twisted tale of my supposed anger and jealousy, a fabrication so far from the truth it left me reeling. My mother, tearful and visibly shaken by my brother's words, clung to him as though he were a victim of my non-existent wrath. My father consoled him, praising his supposed bravery. Despite my desperate attempts to defend myself and explain the truth, the principal sternly reprimanded me, stating that the school would not tolerate bullying. Despite my tears and pleas for understanding, the principal decided on a 10-day suspension to set an example against bullying. Crushed and pleading for a reconsideration, I was helpless as my parents, angry and embarrassed, dragged me out of the office. The weight of injustice was overwhelming as we left the school. Back at home, without any explanation, my father began packing my things. Confused and still reeling, I watched as he declared that he could no longer allow me to live under the same roof as my brother. My mother, though asking what he was doing, did not intervene as he made his decision. In a whirlwind of confusion, hurt, and humiliation, I was forced to face the harsh reality of being pushed out of my own home based on lies spun by my twin. Tears streaming down my face, I was practically on my knees, pleading with my brother to confess the truth, but he remained cold and indifferent to my distress. Meanwhile, my father continued to pack my belongings hastily, throwing my suitcase into the foyer as if to rid the house of my presence. Clinging to my dad's legs, I begged him not to cast me out, but he coldly declared that a supposed bully like me didn't deserve a place in his home. He mentioned that he would call my grandmother to pick me up if she was willing to take me in. It felt as if the foundation of my world had been pulled out from under me. Standing amidst my scattered belongings in the foyer, I watched the nightmarish scene unfold until my grandmother arrived. She quickly gathered my things and helped me place them in her car. Before driving away, she ensured I was securely buckled in, then walked back to confront my parents at the front door. When my dad answered, she didn't hesitate to express her outrage, sternly warning him about the consequences of his actions, including involving the police or child protective services if necessary. My mother attempted to shift the blame onto me, but my grandmother stood firm, defending me and emphasizing that no child deserved such heartless treatment. That moment revealed the strength and conviction of my grandmother, the first time I truly understood the power she held. Unlike my parents, she believed and trusted in me. As we drove away from the only home I'd ever known, the pain was indescribable. Back at her house, I spent days crying, unable to eat, despite my grandmother's encouragement. I confided in her about everything my brother had done, grateful to have at least one ally. When my suspension was finally lifted, returning to school felt like walking back into a lion's den. The judgmental whispers and sidelong glances from classmates were palpable. My brother, having convinced some he was the victim, continued to ignore me, and it seemed like everyone else did too. No matter how hard I tried, my explanations fell on deaf ears. Branded with an unfair label, I felt like a shadow in the hallways. The cafeteria and the classroom met with disdain and mistrust wherever I went. I became a loner, attending classes and eating alone, rushing home right after school. Throughout this ordeal, my parents never checked on me. My grandmother was my constant support, reminding me that none of this was my fault and assuring me that things would get better. I graduated high school with good grades and looked forward to college, hoping for a fresh start and a chance to escape the painful past. College was a revelation. It was the first time I experienced true freedom, no overbearing scrutiny, no unfair comparisons, just the opportunity to be myself. I made friends with like-minded people and finally felt a sense of belonging. During this time, I rediscovered my passion for writing. Although I had put aside my dream of becoming a writer, freelancing seemed a viable way to earn some extra money. I signed up on various freelancing websites and slowly began to build a portfolio, securing jobs from prominent clients. This side hustle throughout college allowed me to maintain financial independence from my parents and heal from the emotional and physical scars of my past, as I embraced the college experience and looked forward to a future where I could truly thrive. After settling into a corporate job, I realized content writing wasn't just a passion, but a viable full-time career. Thanks to my multiple clients and the long-term professional relationships I had built, I often found myself involved in various projects. This thriving writing career didn't just secure my financial independence, it also freed me to travel the world as a blog. The healing power of travel was immense, although it wasn't always easy. I diligently saved money and took bold steps towards my own growth. Throughout my adventures, the only person I still considered family was my beloved grandmother. Despite her sadness when I moved out, she understood my need for independence. No matter how busy I got, I made it a point to spend weekends with her, sharing meals or enjoying long conversations on the porch, reminiscing about my childhood or discussing recent events. Sometimes, I'd dedicate entire afternoons to helping her with household chores or accompanying her on walks in the local park. Recently, I completed one of the most significant projects of my career. Although I can't disclose the brand, I was fortunate to write blogs and product descriptions for them. After wrapping up, I encouraged the team to leave positive reviews on my professional websites, which they gladly did. I captured these accolades in screenshots and shared them on my Instagram, knowing well the impact of such a renowned collaboration. This exposure led many other content photographer and potential clients to reach out, congratulating me and requesting my services. My success even caught the eye of my college's principal, who invited me back to speak about building a career in content writing. Despite my nerves about public speaking, I accepted, eager to share my journey. Standing before an audience of aspiring photographer, I felt my life had come full circle. I discussed my struggles and how I persevered, a talk that turned out to be incredibly fulfilling as I realized the impact of sharing my story on others' lives. Clips from the seminar went viral in Facebook writing groups, resonating deeply with the community. This newfound recognition led to an invitation to appear on a local news show to discuss the benefits of content writing. Although nervous, I was excited to share my insights on a wider platform. On the show, I highlighted the significance of client feedback and how even a simple post of appreciation can open remarkable new opportunities. The episode's airing broadened my audience and was a proud moment that I shared on my Instagram. As clips from the TV show circulated online, my extended family, who were largely unaware of my professional life due to my parents' silence, began to realize how well I was doing. This even reached my parents because soon after the show aired, I found missed calls from my mother on my phone, something that hadn't happened in years. Surprised and hesitant, I returned her call, wondering about the sudden change after such a long silence. After a long period of silence, my phone rang and it was my mom, surprisingly congratulating me. My dad soon joined in, both of them seemingly interested in my life and well-being, which felt unexpectedly normal at first. However, the conversation took a turn when they began inquiring about my earnings. I was taken aback but firmly told them it was none of their business. Despite this, my dad insisted that since we were family, I should be open about my financial status. I reiterated that I was doing well, which led my mom to lament their current financial hardships, mentioning their desire to renovate their now dilapidated home, but lacking the funds to do so. Here's how our conversation unfolded. My mom expressed that my success and the glimpse of my life on TV gave them hope, suggesting that I could contribute financially for their home renovations. My dad chimed in, emphasizing that families should support each other in times of need. Shocked by their audacity, I questioned their motives, reminding them of the years of neglect and silence. Despite their congratulations, I was not ready to open my wallet to them. My mom then accused me of being ungrateful, saying I owed them support as family. My dad added that as their child, it was my duty to look after them. Their words infuriated me, but instead of just lashing out, I decided to set a condition if they wanted my financial help. They would need to publicly admit that my brother was behind the damaging rumors and acknowledge their part in the pain caused to me. My proposal shocked them. My dad questioned why such a public admission was necessary, and my mom suggested we could resolve this privately. I stood firm, stating my terms were non-negotiable. As the conversation grew tense, my dad asserted his parental authority, arguing it was my obligation to help. My mom, in a desperate plea, invoked the years they raised me, but I quickly pointed out the irony in their words, reminding them it was my grandmother who truly raised me after they had kicked me out. They grew increasingly agitated as I maintained my stance. Public acknowledgement of the truth and accountability for their actions were essential for any future assistance from me. Since laying out my terms, they have repeatedly tried to contact me, but I have ignored their calls. Reflecting on this, I regret even returning my mom's initial call. It's been a tumultuous week since sharing my story, and the overwhelming support from others has been incredibly affirming. It reassures me that my decision to demand accountability and not to engage further without it was justified. I set the condition knowing it would be difficult for them, given their clear favoritism towards my brother. This ordeal has highlighted their inability to face the truth, strengthening my resolve to distance myself from their manipulative tactics. I recently endured a very troubling experience with my family. It started when I chose not to answer calls from my parents, prompting my brother to send me a harsh text. In his message, he criticized my decision to stay distant and accused me of giving our parents an unreasonable ultimatum, which he believed they wouldn't accept. He dismissed my feelings, blaming me for past misunderstandings, and insulted my personal life choices by pointing out that I was unmarried and childless. His words were painful and showcased a profound lack of empathy, as he tried to guilt-trip me into financing home repairs for our parents. This incident fueled my determination to address the long-standing injustices within my family. I composed an email to my parents and extended relatives, revealing the preferential treatment my brother received during our upbringing and the false rumor he spread about me in school, which significantly damaged my reputation. I also attached a screenshot of my brother's text admitting his past lies. I hoped this confession would help clarify the truth behind the favoritism and emotional abuse I'd suffered. After sending the email, the family's reaction was immediate and intense. Relatives who were previously unaware of the situation reached out to apologize for their ignorance. My parents and brother bombarded me with increasingly hostile messages, prompting me to seek legal advice and issue a cease and desist notice, effectively halting their attempts to contact me. My grandmother, who has always been my pillar of support, approved of my actions. 3 months later, I'm pleased to report that my life has been progressing positively. My content writing business is thriving, and I've been active in professional circles, participating in seminars and podcasts. I've also been spending invaluable time with my grandmother, who is now passionate about gardening. These moments with her are precious and a significant part of my healing process. As I continue therapy, I remain optimistic about my journey toward recovery and self-improvement. This chapter with my family is closed, and I'm focusing on moving forward with those who truly support me.